Bom dia, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our third day of the event. Today is in our house. Thank you so much, and I hope it's working now. No? Okay, so let's start our event. We are already like 10 minutes late. I'm so sorry about that. All the unexpected things, right? So Lucas will be our host for today. So let's start breathing in, breathing out. Close your eyes. Feel yourself in this space. Feel the energy that is already being worked. And so breathe in, breathe out, breathe in again, and breathe out. Calming down our minds and our hearts. Just understanding that this moment is we are in a spiritual environment as we were yesterday. Okay, so let's call Lucas to start our day for today. Thank you. Hey, got it. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is the 10th Toronto Spiritist Weekend, our third day event. My name is Lucas. I'm from the Allan Kardec Spiritist Centre from London, Ontario. Before starting the event, I would like to request everybody to place your phones in the on silent mode, please. We don't have disruptions. Thank you so much. Our lectures today will happen in both Portuguese and English. Whoever needs help with the translation, just let us know, please. And we also have the Zoom installed, right? If you have your cell phones to follow the lectures in English. So let's initiate our activities today with a prayer. I'd like to invite Clara Borges from the Home of Deus. Is she here to do the initial prayer? Thank you, Clara.
Thank you. I'll invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Dear Jesus and spiritual friends, we thank you for the opportunity to learn, share, and grow together. May this meeting inspire our minds, open our hearts, and strengthen our commitment to living with love and gratitude. Surround us with harmony and peace, and bless our speakers and all who are gathered here today, whether in person or online. So be it.
Thank you so much, Clara. All right, so now certainly more harmonious, involved in peace and love. Let's also place our spirits open to the teachings we're going to have today. So in the name of Joana de Angelis Spiritist Group, the Allan Kardec Spiritist Centre of London, Grupo de Espíritas Paulo de Tarso Spiritist Study Group from Cambridge, the Home of Deus Spiritist Centre from Oakville, Rest on the Way Spiritist Centre here from Toronto, and the Toronto Spiritist Society. We thank you all so much for being here today. All right, so let's continue then our learning process once again. We're going to have our first speaker of the day, Lara Liboni. Dr. Lara Liboni is a strategy and sustainability professor at Ivey Business School, Western University. Her research focuses on systems change, and responsible leadership, working on incorporate character and systems, thinking in management, education. She's also a research fellow at the Itaqui Institute for Biodiversity Research in Brazil. Lara is also the president of the Allan Kardec Spiritist Centre in London, Ontario, where she's a speaker and the mediumistic activities coordinator. Today, Lara will talk about miracles, the power of our will to changes. And her presentation will be in English. Welcome, Lara. Thank you so much. Where is yours?
I was waiting that he could say the presentation would be in Portuguese, but he didn't give me this chance. Since yesterday, I've been asking, can I speak Portuguese? Can I please speak Portuguese? Please, pretty please. They said no, so. Yeah. Well, after this beautiful song, I think we're ready for our morning. And where is Ana Clara? Is she gone already? I want to invite her to go to London to our artistic weekend to sing with us. Oh, here, yeah, because the microphone is this, right? Not this. Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. Do you mind if I get this? Yeah, because I feel like I'm stuck in just one place. I feel I need to move. Okay, good morning. So this was the topic that I was invited to talk about. And when I received this topic, miracles, the willpower, your willpower to change, I went through a big reflection on what is it really that I want to talk about this morning with you, right? First of all, I think it's a miracle that we're here today. Brazilians, most of us, I guess, we left Brazil, our country. We know the responsibility we have to root the Spiritism in North America, right? So I think we're all sharing this responsibility, and I think this is a moment of joy for us and for the spiritual world. I'm sure that the spirits are very happy to see us here today together. So I wanted to say this. And I will start talking a little bit about miracles. What are the miracles, right? What are miracles? So when we go to the Genesis, we see that miracles are something that is extraordinary, something that we don't really know what it is, right? So Kardec says that the French Academy defines this word as an act of divine power contrary to known laws of nature. So something mysterious, miraculous, something that we don't know what it is. And what is very important to look at this is seeing that they say, the French Academy says that it's something contrary to the known laws of nature. So whatever we know as normal or acceptable or known is not a miracle. But what we don't know yet is considered a miracle, right? So humanity was surrounded by many things that we couldn't understand in the beginning of humankind. We couldn't understand the thunder. We couldn't understand many of the natural phenomena that surrounded us. And we tried to give meaning to things. We were always trying to come up with some explanation. And because we didn't have science back then, we would just give explanations that were intuitive, right? Most of them were really guided by our intuition, by our stories, our storytelling, our narratives. So centuries of ignorance have been fruitful in miracles, right? We gave gods to each natural phenomena. We were always trying to explain things in a marvelous way. This actually was the initial manifestations of the human spirit to understand the meaning of life. So we were trying to understand the meaning of life, giving meaning to things. We didn't have science yet, so we were really coming up with these beautiful stories and beautiful explanations, but they were only stories, right? So Kardec asks, Does God ever act contrary to the laws which he has established? Why then should he perform miracles? Because we are saying that it's contrary to no natural laws, right? So the Spirit's answer, in order to attest his power, it is said, but the power of God, is it not manifested in a much more striking manner by the magnificent whole of the works of creation, by the foreseeing wisdom which presides in the smallest as well as the largest of his works, and by the harmony of the laws which rule the universe, than by a few little and puerile modification which all tricksters know how to imitate? So what he's saying here is God manifests in everything, right? It manifests in nature, manifests in all the creation, all its creation. Like Geraldo was saying yesterday, we see God in the tears of a child. We see God in Ana Clara singing for us. We see God here this morning, putting us together in this commitment to a better world, right? So all miracles, they were within natural laws. God was never contrary to natural laws because he created nature. So it wouldn't make any sense for God to do anything that was contrary to his own laws, to his own creation. So what we call miracles actually are only the things that we don't understand yet, things that we don't know yet. As Genesis and Kardec told us, the unknown natural laws, but they're part of the nature. So we still don't know exactly the mechanisms of all the miracles, for example, that Jesus made, right? We don't know exactly how he cured people. We don't know the mechanisms, but we need to understand the purpose. Really, he was not doing that to show us the mechanism. He didn't want to give us a to-do list, a step-by-step on how to cure someone who was sick, because he wasn't curing bodies. For example, he somehow, we don't know the mechanism, we know it's energy, it's his power. He made Lazarus come back to life, right? But Lazarus died later. All the people who he cured were later dead. So he wasn't curing bodies. That was not his purpose. We could spend hours here trying to understand how his energy, how the perispirit, and how scientifically the neurotransmitters and the neuroscience, yes, there are mechanisms. But for us, what matters the most is not how he did it, but why he did it. Because actually, the greatest miracle that Jesus brought us was the miracle of the immortality of the soul. If he had brought only cure to the body, probably Christianity would have died 3 years later. We remember Jesus, and Jesus is so powerful in our lives and in the world because he was talking to spirits. He was not talking to bodies. Through metaphors, through storytelling. But yes, he was talking to spirits. He was talking to the immortal soul. And his cure was in the spirit. That's why he would say, go and never sin again, right? Because you are curing yourself. You are ready for this. Your faith cured you, right? Your faith healed you. That's what he was telling the spirits back then. So the apostles asked for a sign to convince the powerful of the time. Jesus, give us a way to convince the powerful. Give us a sign. Do something very miraculous. Do something that everyone won't believe that it's possible, so they can really believe you, and we can stop this nonsense of people saying that you're not the one. Jesus answered, if you cannot see the Father in nature, how will you see him with a simple sign? Because no matter what sign Jesus could make, whatever healing process he would go through with those people, it was way smaller than nature. How magnificent nature is. the creation of God is so powerful. If we're not able to see God in his own creation, if we're not able to see God in a morning where the sun is out there greeting us with a new day, with a new opportunity, how can we see God? How can we feel God in a healing or in one mechanism that Jesus used to heal someone? And by the way, that's why many people still don't believe in Jesus, right? Because this thought that Jesus was only healing bodies doesn't really make sense. He was showing us the healing process through the body, but it was actually the soul, the spirit. This is what Jesus was doing. Later, we had science. So we had the benefit of science, because if we think for many centuries, we were really thinking about the miraculous, the marvelous, with all the storytelling and the miracles. But then, okay, now it's time to really have science come and try to help us. Let's really understand the mechanism. Now that we could see the purpose, let's understand the mechanism behind many things. So God allowed human beings to gradually penetrate the meaning of things, exploring the universe of the unknown, which was considered then wonderful and miraculous. So beautiful science with its microscopes and telescopes and all the beautiful things that science does for us. And as science discovered new laws, the circle of the marvelous has been narrowed. So many things that were the thunder, for example, that we didn't know what it was, now we understand it's just a natural mechanism, a natural fact that happens, right? So the marvelous was narrowed. And we then ended up exploring so many new things and understanding so many new things in nature, but not everything. We still don't know everything. And many of the things that we don't know that are still in a place of miraculous because they're still not exactly explained, at least for science, right? Science still can't explain some of the things that we know and we believe. These things, they have been relied, right, to religion. So it has been thought that religion leans upon facts which never have and never can be explained. So this is how our world sees things today. Science can explain things. Religion, it's a belief. You either believe or you don't believe. Things that science can't explain, then religion comes in and we say, okay, this is just a belief, right? But science continues advancing, and today we see more and more science showing us many things that we already knew since the 1800s with Kardec. We see science telling us, listen, your thoughts can shape your world. Now we have neuroscience telling us this. We have Stanford professors coming and saying, depending on what you think, on on how your thoughts are, will change your affect, will change your mood, will change your environment, which will change your relationships. We have articles being published on this. And we as spiritists, we know this for centuries, right? We know that our thoughts shape our internal world, our relationships, the way we make our decisions, our choices. But science now is backing all this up. It's coming and saying, listen, we know this. This is a fact. There's a beautiful experiment. I don't know how many of you have seen this. His name, I think, is Dr. Yamamoto. He is a Japanese professor, and he did an experiment with water. Have you ever seen this? So he got different, samples. See the problem with the English? Thank you. He got samples of water, and he did lots of experiments to see what would happen with the molecules of the water. And the results were incredible, right? So the molecule of the water that was inside a jar where people would be praying and singing beautiful songs and meditating, the pictures are beautiful, are really like diamonds, right? And then the water that was although clean, and the same sample put in a room with lots of bad thoughts and bad feelings and yelling and shouting, it would resemble the water of a very polluted river. So the molecules would get dark and all like disform. Why? Because our thoughts, our feelings, our environment shapes those molecules. And science has told us that we are 70% water, right? Our human body is 70% water. So if Dr. Yamamoto came and showed us that the molecule of the water can change this much with a prayer, imagine what we can do to our bodies, what we can do to our molecules, to what we can do with our health. So this is science coming along with religion to explain many things that were seen as unknown, as miracles, as marvelous. And now science saying, yes, this is possible. This is true, right? So it is true that science is coming along, right? The problem is that many times science, and during the Illuminism, came and said, okay, we proudly know that we know everything, and that your beliefs are just beliefs. And all that experimentation method, right, ended up narrowing our capability and our curiosity to discover the unknown. We somehow deviated from philosophy, right? We split. Science was there, religion was there, art was there, and philosophy was there. And these four domains were not together, right? And so this is a matter of religion. This is a matter of philosophy. In my work, for example, when I cite the philosophers in my articles, I have my reviewers from my paper say, why are you citing Aristotle? And I say, because Aristotle is a very important writer, right? But it's not science, it's philosophy. It's not backed up by science, right? Because we still see in science people telling us, don't talk about the philosophers here. This is not science. But at some point, this will be just a synthesis, right? It will all be just one thing. As we evolve, humankind, and in our planet as a regeneration planet, we will see these four domains coming together more and more. So the Spiritism, at some point, when Kardec and others that were discovering the Spiritism, especially in North America, the spiritual phenomena being natural, have been produced in all ages. We know that it's not just a thing that happened in France in the 1800s, right? We know that in North America with indigenous communities, the Native Americans are indigenous in Brazil, right? I work with indigenous communities in the Amazon rainforest, and they're spiritists, right? They don't study, but they believe and they know all this. So this has been produced in all ages. This is old, right? It's a phenomenon that has been old, but because it was so miraculous, so marvelous, and there was no explanation, it was something that had to stay there, right? And what Kardec did is try to create an experiment, right? Is try to say, okay, how can I look at this spiritual phenomena that is old and it's present in so many communities, in native communities, how can I bring this closer to science? So his experimentation method, right, the way he did it, tried to create a little bit of structure to that knowledge that already existed. So he tried to arm himself to then show that all that supernatural could be explained. But because the Illuminism and science, remember that science back then and still today would say we know everything, and what we don't know is because it doesn't exist, right? Many of the things that were explained by Kardec and that we believe and that are there in his basic books They are a domain of the Spiritism because they're seen as supernatural still for science, right? Science still sees it supernatural. It is true that we have many papers and many articles already talking about mediumship, for example. But if I go to my university and talk about mediumship, when a manager is making a decision, and I say, listen, if you pray, if you meditate before making a difficult decision, chances are that you're going to have a better decision. They're going to fire me. They're going to say, leave immediately. You're going crazy. So that's why we have to go slowly, right? Because we can't be radicals. We have to slowly plant the seeds. So we talk about character, we talk about responsible leadership, we talk about consequence of the acts of those people, we talk about decision-making in a way that we invite those leaders to make better decisions. Because it's important for them, because it's important for nature, because it's important for the world. But seeds that we plant, right? So yes, it is true that we have many, many papers. I'll give you another example. I have an ADHD child, and I found an article saying that, well, there are many papers actually showing that the ADHD kids that are not treated with medication at some point, there are more chances that they would use drugs when they're older, right? Because of the dopamine seek. And I found one article saying that kids with the ADHD that have a religion, they have less chance to become addicted in the future, even if they're not treated with the drugs, right? With medication. So yes, there is a correlation between using the medication and then consuming drugs in the future. But there's an intermediate thing over there saying, listen, but if you have religion, if you teach your child religion, if you teach your child consequences, if you talk about ethics, consequences of ethics, if you talk about Jesus, the power of Jesus, it's not only about consequences, but it's the power of Jesus in our lives. If you teach this to that small kid, you break this paradigm, right? This idea that they would have more chances of having dopamine seek. So it is true that we have this type of thing. We have articles. But even though we have this, how many parents of ADHD kids are really interested or wanting to get out of their comfort zone to give a religion to their kids? Do they really believe that? Right? Because it's one article. It's one article from that professor, from that university saying that. But most of the people, they don't believe that. They know that the medication is important. This is okay. They have understood this already. Many of the parents already know this. But to give this step further, then, oh, it's just a chain of thought that is saying this. Because religion can be a constraint, religion can be a barrier, so we have the oppositions, right? So this is how science is evolving. It's evolving in small steps. We're going to get there, but we can't also wait for science. Because if we just sit and wait for science, our kids won't have religion. Today, there's no invitation, especially in some societies, to bring religion to our homes and to our kids. Many homes in this country, for example, when you talk about religion, they say, oh, no religion, right? No Jesus here. But we know the power of Jesus, and we have to remember the power of Jesus. Oh, no, but I just teach doing the right and wrong. That's great. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. It's ethics. This is the minimum we have to teach our kids. But have you introduced your kids to Jesus? Does your child know who Jesus is? Right? So we have been unveiling these mysteries. But Spiritism also, it's interesting because many of the things that Spiritism brought us until today, they are seen as marvelous and miraculous because science hasn't, yet explored. So you admit that a spirit can raise a table and maintain it in a space without support? Isn't that a derogation of the law of gravity? Yes, to the known law, but are all laws known? To the vulgar eye, the ascent of a balloon must have appeared miraculous. So back then, a person who doesn't understand anything from science, like centuries and centuries ago, seeing a balloon going up would say, oh, this is diabolical. How is this balloon going up? So there are many things that we still see today as miraculous, but they're just because science hasn't still gotten there, right? It's still new for us. Does anyone know what knowledge and discoveries may be ours in the future? We don't know. So we see many people saying, but this is impossible. We don't know. Can we not see already under the empire of Spiritism, magnetism, sonambulism, the ecstasies, visions, apparitions, clairvoyance, instantaneous cures, trances, oral and other communications with beings of the invisible world, phenomena known from time immemorial, considered formerly as miraculous, now being demonstrated as belonging to the natural order of things in harmony with universal laws of being? So what they're showing us is that Spiritism, with the experimentation method, showed us how these things were possible, and they were seen as miraculous, right? And we have been advancing, so science and Spiritism. The spiritual phenomena, being natural, have been produced in all ages. Oops, this is me going back, sorry. So then we ask ourselves, okay, if the greatest miracle that Jesus brought to us was the immortality of the soul, because it was unknown, and he showed us the soul is immortal. What is the greatest miracle that the Spiritism brought to us, that unveiled? It is the divine expression in ourselves. And we heard this a lot yesterday. God is in us, in all our genes, all our bodies. We are nature. We are God's creation. And God's law is imprinted in our consciousness. We have God's law in our consciousness. We know what we are supposed to do. We deviate from God's laws. We create almost, how can I say this in English, tampões, barriers, like dark barriers, like the coffee, borra de café. Who can translate borra de café for me? Sorry? Thank you. I don't know how to, I didn't hear, so.
Grout.
Grout, coffee grout. So it's almost as we get our consciousness and we put coffee grout in it, because the consciousness is a filter. It filters what we're doing. If we're connected to God's laws and our consciousness is clean, it's a perfect filter. Whenever I have to make a decision, I connect with God's laws, which is in my consciousness, and I make my decision. Why do we feel guilty after many times? Because we have the law in our consciousness, but we just access the law. We assess that part of our consciousness after we made the decision. So we say, what did I do? So in the centuries of our many lives and reincarnations, we have been doing many things that are against God's law. We have deviated from God's law. So our consciousness is full of coffee grouts, right? We have to clean this up. We have to slowly clean this. And we're only going to be able to clean this by doing the good, by understanding who we are, by observing ourselves, observing who are we. We see ourselves in the others. How are my relationships? How are my relationships inside my house? This is the best thermometer for us. Where are my struggles? Because it's very common that we ask for all the spiritists, we say, what is it that you came to do here in this life? All of them answer, improve myself, evolve. But that's very vague. Because what Ionara came to evolve and to improve is different than what I came to do. So while I'm just in this superficial thoughts that I have to improve, and I don't know what I have to improve, my difficulties, they come in very different forms and ways. My pride shows itself in very different ways than other people. Some people They are pride, and the pride is shown in being timid, in being shy. I don't want to show myself. I don't want to show who I am. I don't want people seeing me do anything wrong. I'm perfectionist. Some people will show their pride through arrogance. I know it all. I'm the good. So it's different forms of manifestation, but the nucleus, the sick nucleus is the same, is pride. So it's also very vague to say, oh, I came to work, how proud I am. I came to work, how selfish I am. Okay, but do you know how pride manifests in your relationships? Do you know in which moments pride is triggering situations in your relationships that are putting your relationships into disadjustments? Because we came to align ourselves also, to adjust ourselves. Those people that are sharing the life with us, they're people that were carefully invited to be with us. There's a purpose for those people to be with us. I remember yesterday, and I always talk a lot about Otávio's fall in Missionários da Luz, de André Luiz. So Otávio stays 30 years in the spiritual world planning his reincarnation. 30 years. With carefully planning his reincarnation. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew, not exactly what was going to happen, but he knew what he was supposed to do. He knew the main street that he had to navigate. He arrived here, and his choices were all contrary to what he wanted to do. He asked for that opportunity. Until when are we going to act like this? Until when are we going to stay years in the spiritual world planning? And we're going to arrive here and we're going to make our decisions and make our choices in a way that are kind of irresponsible and thinking always as material humans, right? We need to spiritualize our existence. We need to make sure that we understand every day, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, I'm a spirit. I am a spirit. This is what Jesus brought us. You are a spirit. You are an immortal soul. And this is what the Spiritism brings to us every day. You are a spirit and you communicate with other spirits. You interconnect with other spirits the whole time. Spirits that are reincarnated like you, and spirits that are already in another form of life. So the miracle of love, humility, the beauty that surrounds us is what the Spiritism brought us. It's not only about talking to spirits. It's not only about being able to know that we die and we come back. This is the basic of Spiritism. Knowing that we have other planets, other forms of life. We already know all this. What Spiritism is really inviting us is, how are you getting all this knowledge and changing yourself? Are we still going to be the intellectual illuminists of the past? We already know that many spiritists are the reincarnation of very proud and arrogant illuminists of the past that study a lot. We know it all. We read all the books. We know from A to Z what we have to do and what Kardec said and everyone said, but we haven't yet been able to bring this to our lives, to the simplicity of our lives. We're still complicating our lives and our choices and our decisions, when we should just be waking up every day and saying, I'm a spirit, this is another opportunity. Because we are invited to show the divine expression in ourselves every day, in our work, with a person that we have to talk that maybe is bringing us some struggles in our workplace, with our family, with our friends, the patients that we have to have in a different country, understanding all the processes that we have to go through, learning how to accept, at the same time how to fight within ourselves. So this is our greatest miracle. It's the miracle that we are able to renew ourselves. And we are here today. What we have right now is the present. What are we doing now? We live in this anxiety that we're always thinking what's going to happen tomorrow. We're either in the past or we are in the future. We're in the past thinking of everything we did, and especially because we feel guilty, because many times we make decisions without God's alignment in our consciousness. So we're feeling guilty and we're looking to the past, or we're looking to the future. What's going to happen? And I'm anxious. But Jesus told us that we need to trust. We need to trust God's providence. He said, go and never sin again. Oh, no sin anymore. I don't. Never look back. I love to do this in Portuguese. I always say in the universe, I say, I'm always smarter and funnier in Portuguese. It's totally different, but okay. Rosângela, can I come back one day to do it in Portuguese? Thank you. And so he said, never look back, right? And we're still looking back. We're still looking all the time to the past. Yesterday, Marco told us that our perispirit is our archive. We know that in our memory, our millennial memory, we have all our lives and all our personalities and all our experiences in like drawers, right? It's all in drawers. When we reincarnate, we pick and choose some of the things that we're going to work with. We are incapable of dealing with all the things we need to deal. We have so many difficulties and so many dark nucleus in our perispirit that we can't, in one life, clean it all up. So when we are planning our reincarnation, we go there and we say, okay, what am I ready for? Oh, okay, I am ready. I feel ready and strong enough to go through this. So I pick that. And then I plan my reincarnation. I reincarnate in a reincarnation setting that is perfect for me, right? And then when I'm here, do you know what we do? We see our neighbor struggling with something and we say, I would never do that. That person is already capable of dealing with that struggle. They went to the archive, got it, and said, okay, I'm going to deal with this right now. We are not yet in that position. We don't know if we were in that position, if we were able to do the same way. So we have to remember Peter. Peter said, Jesus, I will never betray you or deny you. I will never deny you. And Jesus said, you will, Peter, 3 times. He said, no, that's not possible. I would die for you. And he had to betray Jesus to see his real size. We don't see our real size. We are either magnifying who we are and either minimizing who we are. We don't observe who we are. We don't know who we really are. We're wasting so much time looking at what others are doing and wanting to study and know everything without practicing within us. So we need to deny, to say, okay, this is who I am. I'm still capable of doing this. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that I was capable of doing something like this. I thought I was better than this. So studying the Spiritism in its crystal clarity is a duty that we cannot postpone, whatever the justification may be. So what we're saying here is that we need to study. We need to study Spiritism. We need to read. We need to know, because knowledge is important for us to shed light in our consciousness that is all coffee grounded. I don't know if that's the word, but just repeating. Right? We need to shed light to our consciousness. So we need to study. This is the only way that we will abolish the captivity of ignorance, and we will free our spirits. No attempt at moral recovery will be effective if we remain trapped in ignorance of ourselves. So listen, what I tried to put here in the slide is, yes, we need to study Spiritism. We need to understand, we need to know, but no moral recovery because we are sick and we need to recover. We need to realign with God's justice and laws will be effective if we remain trapped in ignorance of ourselves. So it's not only studying the Spiritism, it's studying who we are, how things manifest in ourselves, and we see ourselves in the others. I remember once we did an exercise with the youth in Brazil before I moved to Canada, that we asked them to do, it was kind of like a passport. It was their own passport. Actually, it was a manual. And we said, okay, how beautiful would it be if we were born with a manual? And, you know, I would just meet you and say, here, Leonard, this is my manual. If you want to deal with me, this is how I work and I function. It would be very beautiful, right? And so we asked the kids to do this. We said, we're gonna try to create a manual. And the purpose of doing this is trying to see, do you know who you are? Do you know yourself? What would you tell someone that's going to relate with you? What are the risks of relating with you? What are the flaws? What are the good? And one of the experiments that we did is they had to do the gospel at home with their family and talk to their family members what they would tell them about themselves, right? It's almost like interviewing them, mom, but it had to be during the gospel because we wanted it not to be a criticism. We wanted to be like a setting of a lot of love and compassion. So I remember I did it with my parents because I had to do with the youth. And I said, okay, parents, mom, dad, I'm here doing my life manual, and I wanted to hear from you. What do you think that I need to improve? And it was such an amazing experience because we don't hear people who really love us. They're looking at us and they can help us. How are we open to listening to what they have to tell us, right? So it was a beautiful experiment that we did, and it was a way to really get out of the ignorance of ourselves, really know who we are. So the truth about Spiritism is that the divine expression is within us. We are able to heal our sick intimacy. Because if we have God within ourselves, we're able to heal ourselves. Jesus said, you can do much more than this to the apostles, right? You can do way more than what I do here. You don't know, but you can do all these miracles and way more. There was true will, a sincere desire for transformation, and an internal struggle, effort, and discipline for the modification and enlightenment of consciousness. When we read Paulo's story and we say, oh, Saul met Jesus and then he became Paul, it seems like it's almost a miracle, right? He met Jesus, he saw Jesus, and a magic. No, Paul went to the desert 3 years. He was struggling with himself. It was effort. It was a lot of discipline. It's not easy. No apostle or Jesus told us that it would be easy. It's going to hurt. It's going to be hard. We're going to have to restart again and reflect and close our doors in our bedroom and say, Jesus, help me. I'm struggling right now. I just saw a shadow that I didn't even know I had. Right? But we need to do this because we will be able to heal our intimacy. But the first step is being able to really commit to this, the real commitment. So we know the path. We need to let go of the arrogance that blinds us and makes us believe we are already where we are not yet. Ooh. E agora, gente? Pronto, voltei. So we need to let go of the spirits. They were trying to say, don't. But I want to tell you that we think we're somewhere that we're not yet there. Most of us, we don't see who we really are, right? We really don't. So we need to fine tune what we think we already know. Observe who we are, observe our reactions, the strength that lies within us, the strength to transform ourselves, to leave the old man behind, just as Paul did, not in a magical way, but with effort, with discipline, with willingness to know who I am and what I need to change. Study, compare, deepen our understanding. Study our reactions, study how we think. Why am I feeling uncomfortable right now? Someone said this, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Maybe it's how vain I am, right? So this is probably, I'm manifesting how vain I am. And I should rethink. I should maybe learn new ways of doing things, because neuroscience is bringing us the idea that we can build new habits, right? And what many of the Stanford professors, again, are telling us is to change a habit, you need to build a new habit first. Because it's kind of like a pathway. Let's imagine that this is all grass, right? And I have a pathway over here. And I'm used to getting to the other side through this road. If this road is not ideal and I need to build a new one, I'm not going to try to go to the other side if the grass is this tall. I need to first start creating the path over here, right? To at some point be able to say, okay, I have both options. They're both good enough. They're both clear. Now I know that this one's better. I'm going to stop using this one. We can just change a habit. It's not magical. We have to create new habits. I have the habit of talking about people. And then you say, I have to stop talking about people. I have to stop talking about people. It's the education of the contrast. I need to learn how to talk about other things. I need to go work with charity. Go surround yourself with people that are talking about other things. And all of a sudden, when you see, there's no pleasure anymore in talking about other people. You learned a new habit, and you can now make a choice. So we need to give ourselves the chance to learn these new habits that are aligned with what Jesus wants us to do, right? Your willpower to change, the power of thought and will. Will is the dynamo of the spirit. All those people that were healed by Jesus, they had will. They had faith and they had will. They really wanted. They wanted so badly. They walked miles and miles to meet Jesus. It was pulsing inside them. How strong is our will? Because desire is different than will. I may desire things, but to get there, I need to have my will strengthened. Because it's the strength of my will that's going to make me wake up every day and work harder and harder. And breathe and say, let's try again. I fell, but let's do it again. I can do it. That's why I'm here. I tell my kids, sometimes they complain about things. I say, boys, did you really think that life was going to be a playground? We're not here to just play. It's not a playground. We're going to have moments of fun, but we are here for another. The purpose is other, right? So we get so distracted with the material world, so distracted with social media, distracted with, the concerns we have, the anxiety and the politics and, the economic situation and the trips and the friendships and all of a sudden life is going and going and going fast. And we haven't started yet our main project, which is our project. So will is the driving force that propels the spirit to action. It is through will that the spirit decides its paths, overcomes challenges, and strives for moral and spiritual progress. Ask yourself, how is my will? How strengthened is my will? Thought is creative, and it is the initial cause of our elevation or degradation. It prepares all discoveries for science, for the wonders of art, but also the miseries and all the shame of humanity. This is Leon Denis telling us the power of our thoughts, right? It prepares science, it prepares art. It all comes from our thoughts. In any field of social activity, in all domains of the visible or invisible world, the action of thought is sovereign, constantly modifying our inner nature. How are our thoughts? What are the patterns of our thoughts? Have we asked ourselves? Our thoughts have a pattern. Are we observing our thoughts? Do we know how I'm vibrating every day? Or are we just living life like Zeca Pagodinho said? Let life guide me, or whatever is the truth. Yeah. So we have to be the conductors of this car. We have to stop saying, okay, I'm just a passenger. We're not passengers because we already know the truth. We're not going to be able to get there and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. We can't say we were ignorance. I'm sorry to tell you, but now you already know. There's no way back. Our mind functions as a transmitter and receiver of thoughts. Many of our monologues are dialogues. What is it that you are thinking when you're alone? Are you complaining? How often do you complain? Because our monologues are not monologues, they're dialogues. We're not alone. Stimulate the construction of positive thinking as a mechanism for progress. Thought is linked to memory. Oops, now I have another news to tell you. Our memory is so strong, our spiritual memory is so strong that our patterns of behavior, they're very strong. We come back like Otávio did after planning 30 years and we say, okay, now I'm going to do everything different. But I have a memory. And the memory is very strong. Our will, power to change, needs to be stronger than our memory. Otherwise, we're going to live the same way we used to live before and before and before. And we're going to repeat centuries of mistakes. And we're tired of mistakes. We don't want to make mistakes anymore. Because we impose ourselves lots of problems with this. God created us God created us as part of nature, for beauty, for love, for wisdom, for good. We carry our own faults. And we need to get tired of this. We need to say enough, right? So we need to know that our memory needs to stay behind. And we need to say, okay, good that I already did this in the past, how cruel I was. I'm not going to let my cruelty come back. And every time that I see a little tiny part of cruelty in my thoughts, I'm going to say, stop right now. You already know you're not this anymore. This is a new life. This is a new opportunity. It's a new beginning. Memory is an inviolable repository, but thought is different. It can be worked on and developed. I can't get rid of my memories. What I was in the past is there. It's in those drawers that are part of my memory, of my spiritual memory, but I can shape new thoughts. I have 4 minutes, but I'm getting there. So I already said that science is catching up. So we already have neuroscience telling us how neurotransmitters influence our health. Neurotransmitters as chemical messengers are crucial. For example, today science is telling us in determining how we feel, think, and react. We have science telling us this, that Spiritism has already told us centuries ago, right? The brain-body connection through neurotransmitters highlights how thoughts and emotions influence our physical health. So we already know that feelings of anger and revenge can get us sick. We know this through Spiritism. Now science is telling us this. Science is telling us, listen, you have a cancerous cell. It's not only about your diet. It's not only about your physical well-being, but it's about your emotional well-being. We have companies today recruiting, and I talk about this because it's my area of knowledge, but we have companies today recruiting leaders, and they say, we don't want to know what they know technically. We can teach them internally. We can do boot camps. We can finish the training. We want to know how social and emotional knowledge and ability and capability they have. Because we're tired of this super smart leaders that can't relate to each other, right? So research indicates, for example, today we have the Penn State University through positive psychology saying how optimistic individuals tend to have better immune function compared with pessimistic peers. So they're getting those people that work in the stock market and they're saying, come here, let me teach you something. You can perform better if you learn how to be more optimistic. This is science telling us what we already know. In contrast to the harmful effects of negative emotions, positive thoughts and feelings have been shown to strengthen the immune system. Another thing that I thought was beautiful, I'm not from psychology, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is an article I found talking about cognitive restructuring. So cognitive restructuring for psychologists is a cornerstone of cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's a method that helps individuals identify challenge and replace distorted or negative thoughts with more balanced and realistic ones. This is brilliant. This is what we learn in Spiritism. This is what we teach our youth, right? In our evangelization, is how to become aware of these distortions, how to actively challenge them and reframe your thinking process. Now, this is science telling us how to do it. So it's brilliant how science is catching up and two streams coming together. Did you block me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like, leave. Done. So this is, I'm not gonna read this. This is a piece of Segue-me, de Chico Xavier and Emmanuel about self-healing. So what he's saying here is, yes, you have to treat arrhythmia, but however, do not surrender your heart to overwhelming impulsiveness. Why? Because we're treating arrhythmia, but we continue to be impulsive. We want a better world, but we're still aggressive. We're praying that war is over, but inside our homes, we're still screaming, right? Remove the dangers of uremia, yet do not suffocate the kidneys with the poisons of glittering globules. So what this is beautiful. You should read it later because it's telling us all the things that we do that have impact in our physical health. And we're paying the doctors and we're going out there to treat ourselves, but we're not okay. We don't have will yet to improve who we are. So we're treating the symptoms, right? At a certain point, science, philosophy, religion, and art will merge into a powerful synthesis. Knowing the truth of the soul's immortality, now that we know, we need to seek to understand who we are, removing our masks and examining our thoughts, feelings, and relationships. We use masks. Why? Because we moralize how we should be. Religion in the past was so strict that we create like this moral idea that, oh, I should never be angry. So I'm super nice and kind, and I really believe that I'm that. But internally, I'm sick because I'm not kind and nice. I just learned a trained behavior, and I'm swallowing all that anger, right? So I really need to take the mask away and say, listen, enough of the mask. No, I'm not kind and nice. I'm learning how to be kind and nice. And it's okay to assume this. It's okay to say, I am not there yet. To truly transform ourselves and hear our imperfections, moving towards to a happier life with choices aligned with the divine laws. And this is just because I'm passionate about this prayer. So I don't have time anymore. The purpose was to really read this prayer together because I feel this prayer is a must. So I translated, they might have a formal translation for this prayer that is Euripides Barçanufo's Prayer of God. And I put the prayer there. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.